What's going on, guys? My name is Kyle and welcome back. Now, if you're like me and you grew up in Australia, you'd be very familiar with our licensing plate system. If you guys aren't from Australia or you have no idea what I'm talking about, let me explain some things. Getting your license here is definitely different to places like America, where you can get in the car at 16 and drive by yourself. That doesn't happen here. We have different timelines for different age groups. We have different restrictions per state. There's a lot of things that change throughout different states that you go to in Australia, and it also depends on not only your age, but when you actually get your license as well. There's a lot of things that can determine how long you're in that stage of your license until you become a fully licensed driver. Now, I'm not super familiar with every other state. I live in Victoria myself, so that's the terms that I'm going to be talking about, but I don't really know what else happens in the country. I mean, it's very, very similar across the board with slight nuanced differences, but like I said, I know the Victorian system. I'm gonna run with that. Otherwise, I'm probably gonna get a lot of stuff wrong. And I mean, I'd probably do that anyway, but let's just jump right into it. So here in Victoria, one of the first steps that you can take in your license journey is when you turn 16 years old. You can go for what's called a learner's permit, or your L plates, as we call it here down under. And all you need to do to get this learner's permit is to just fit some basic criteria. You have to be at least 16 years old, you have to pass an online learner's permit test, you have to be medically fit to drive, and you have to prove who you are. I mean, that seems pretty straightforward. Prove that you're the person applying for the test, complete the test, and be medically fit to drive. That's it. You can't be younger than 16, you can be as old as you need to be, but 16 years old is the minimum age. Now, unlike places such as America, now that you have your learner's permit at 16, it doesn't mean that you can drive by yourself at the age of 16. Your learner's permit is held for 2 years, and within that 2-year period, you have to accumulate a certain amount of driven hours on the road with a supervised, fully licensed driver. That could be your parents, that could be a friend or a cousin who's fully licensed. It could be anybody who holds a full driver's license, but they have to be with you at all times, doing those hours, logging those hours in a logbook, so you can prove to Vic Roads that you've done these hours, you've learnt what you need to, and you're ready to progress to the next stage of your license. I promise this whole video is not about getting a learner's permit. So once you've finished your 2 years, you've got your hours, you've filled in your logbook to prove you've done those hours, you then have to go back to Vic Roads to get your Ps, or your probationary license. Now bear with me, because this is where things might get a little confusing. So your probationary license period is broken into 4 years. You have 1 year under your P1 license, and then you have 3 years under your P2 license, which means that you're a probationary driver for that 4-year period. So to get your probationary license, you do have to complete a driving test with an instructor in the car who's marking your performance, as well as completing what's called a hazards perception test, where you look at certain road rules and scenarios in a virtual situation and say what you think you would do or what you should do in that situation. It's just a way of making sure you have a firm understanding of the road rules and what you would do in a situation where you would have to perceive a certain hazard, I guess. Anyway, you've done the test, you've passed, you've got your probationary license. Now, like I said, the first 12 months of that is P1, or your red P plates, and you have to display these plates on your car at all times, so people on the roads can identify what stage of your license you're in. It's the same for your first 2 years on your L plates, then for the 12 months on your P1 red Ps, and then for the 3 years after that with your green Ps displaying P2 license, which is your green P plates or your probationary 2 license. Now, there are certain restrictions with P1 and P2 and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to go into that. That's not what this video is about. But what my point is there's different stages of your license or your driving career, I guess, and for the first 6 years of that license period, you have to display what stage you're in, and if you don't, it is a finable offense. The police, if they pull you over and see that you're a probationary 1 driver without P plates, it's against the law. It is something that's regulated, it's something that's enforced, it is something you need to do as a young driver, or a driver in general who's in those stages of their license here in Victoria. Now, I know you're probably asking, what's the point of running through all of these license plates and stuff if it doesn't matter to you? Why would you care about it if you don't even live in Australia or Victoria? Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. The point of bringing this up is you've always had to do that. And as far as I can remember, it's always been a thing. It's something that I remember being a kid at school. I remember that being the situation. But in the last week, something new has arisen that I did not see coming, and I don't think a lot of people did. And to be bluntly honest with you, a lot of the stuff that I've read online or heard from people is very mixed. So I thought I'd bring it to you all so we can talk about it. I want to see what you guys think, because I'm still on the fence about whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. I have no idea. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Welcome to the R plate. Now, I don't want any jokes today, okay? I want you to be serious. It's a serious topic. Be mature. All right? Let's move on. Now, the R plate is something that's just been announced here in Australia. And what the R stands for is return. They're called return plates. And the whole purpose of these is to have a plate that recognizes people who are returning to the road. Now, I'm genuinely on the fence about this. I know that there's some people that may be really for this, and there's probably some people who really think this is not the best move forward for people who are returning to the road after experiencing some sort of road incident or road trauma. I know it's probably a very, very touchy subject, but like I said before, the whole purpose of these is for you as a driver to put them on your rear window, and people behind can see that maybe you're not as comfortable on the road, or you're driving slower because that situation might make you nervous, or anything along those lines. It's a good way for you to show that you had just coming back to the road after quite a while of a break, and that's why you might not be as comfortable as they are on the road, which is totally fine. Now, if you feel putting one of these R plates on the back of your car to identify yourself as somebody who's maybe not as comfortable on the road, or whatever the situation, if using this on the back of your car makes you more comfortable, more power to you. We all deal with road trauma in different ways. We all have different experiences. That's 100% your decision. But I want to just quickly talk about one of my personal experiences. When I was 19 years old, I had a motorbike accident. It was terrible, it was stupid, and it was my own fault, 100%. But I wrote my bike off, it was completely done, it was finished, and it stopped me getting on a motorbike for a couple of years. I was a little nervous about getting back on the road on a motorbike, just because of that experience. Obviously, we all have our own idea of what traumatic means or what trauma is. I 100% understand that. But I know for me, getting back on a motorbike was already difficult enough. And I don't think having an R plate on the back of my bike to say, I had an accident, I'm scared. The cynical part of me thinks that if I'm riding in front of somebody who may be having a terrible day or is under the influence of something that's really gonna cloud who they are as a person, how do I know that having that plate on there isn't gonna make me a target for them to try and mess with me? I know the vast majority of the population aren't gonna behave like that, but if you are somebody who is in one of those vulnerable situations, would it be better for you to be identified or to not be identified? That's the whole point of why I wanted to make this video. So with my job, I'm in a car every day, all day. I drive around all day, see different people. That's just part of what I do, right? And I'm constantly on the freeway or in built up areas or whatever, driving through peak hour, driving in country areas. I see a lot of different roads in Melbourne, and I see a lot of different places in Victoria. I observe different parts of the road. Now, I want to just quickly change the R plate for a baby on board sticker. Can you tell me with 100% certainty that if somebody is tailgating another driver, or they're, being very aggressive on the road, they're really up behind somebody and they're, really being quite pushy and whatever the certain situation of that driver, if they see a baby on board sticker, do you think they're gonna stop? That's my main question, because I can tell you with 100% certainty that a baby on board sticker does not deter these people from driving the way that they're going to drive. Now, unlike other driver plates that we have to use in Victoria to identify ourselves, like our learners and our Ps, the R plate is not something that's regulated. It's not something you need to do. It's not something that's enforced by anybody. This is solely your choice and your decision, which I guess is probably a good thing, because there's no way that you could really regulate something like that. I feel like that would be quite insensitive, I guess, to people who may have had an incident on the road and they are trying to forget that road trauma. I can only imagine every time you want to go back to your car, you're looking at that plate and you immediately remember what happened. I know for me personally, if I had just had an incident on the road where I was still traumatized, or it was a very, intense accident or an intense situation, that I wanted to just try and move past and try and push through whatever that situation left me in. I know that if I went back out to my car every single day to go to work to see a gigantic blue R plate on the back, I would immediately think about it again. It would always be in the forefront of my mind. And like I said before, if this is something that works for you, fantastic. I'm not gonna sit here and say the way that you deal with things and the way that I deal with things are exactly the same, because it's not. I'm gonna deal with things in my way and you're gonna deal with things in your way. But my big concern has nothing to do with the people who may have faced the road trauma. My issue is the people who are going to be on the road, who might have malicious intent or might be under the influence and not thinking like somebody in a rational situation would. Is that R plate going to be a gigantic target on the back of your car that might put you in a sticky situation? I don't know. I really have no idea. I'm genuinely so on the fence about this. Part of me really wants to like this. If this R plate is something that gives you a hope in the car again, or makes you feel more comfortable, or if it's a good way for you to deal with any trauma that you've experienced on the road, then fantastic. But I would hate for it to be something that makes things worse or makes it harder for you as a driver? I don't know. I really have no idea. So I'm looking at the My Car Tire and Auto website, and you can actually get your own R plate now. You can order one, or you can just print one and stick it on the back of your car. Whatever's easier for you, you have those options. But these are now available for people to start putting on their cars. And I really just want to ask your opinions. I want to know what you guys think about this. And like I said, we all deal with things in our own way. What works for you might not work for me, and vice versa. But I really want to know what you guys think about these plates. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Are you for it? Are you against it? Whatever your opinions, I would love to know. I would love to just see how you guys feel about this. I understand that places on the other side of the world, I'm going to use America as a reference because I talk to you guys quite a lot and I have a bit of an understanding as to the way your license system works, I guess. But I know that you don't have your learners and your P plates and you don't have to display those identifiers, and it is very different. I understand that it's very, very different. But even if you are somebody who doesn't live in Australia, what do you think about this? Do you think this is a good thing for people who are trying to return for the road, or do you think that this might be something that could be exploited by people who are quite malicious in their intent? I don't know. I really have no idea. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe. It helps us out a bunch. All of our social media links and the stream links are in the description. I'm going to see you guys in the next one. I love your faces. And bye!